my brother passed away when I was like, not quite 3 years old. My parents, awesome people. They were already having challenges in their relationship. That and financial issues, they just didn't make it. And my mom took off to go be with her family across the country and just kind of left. And I'm left with my dad, who's trying to figure things out, right? And he throws himself into work and dating and finding, the next someone for him. And I just remember, like, from the earliest age, like just feeling like really alone and feeling what is this all about? Like, what is life about? And I can, speed through my lifeline, but basically, and through event and time after time, over and over again, there's just always been this question. It's like, what is this about? Like, why am I here? Like, why am I here? Like, what is the point? Why me? Why did I live and my brother not live? Other times where I was doing stupid and in my mind, I should be dead, but somehow by God's grace, I'm alive. I'm here. And I just have often wondered that question. I wrestled with that question a lot. And so early part of my life, that was, that looked where I was trying to fill that in a lot of different ways. And that, had all kinds of, dead ends and empty pursuits that felt good for a while, but it ended up being empty. And I surrounded myself with really a weak community on top of that. So it just sort of not bad people, but just, not really up to things and not always up to good. But we're having fun and just pursuing these things. And so, that's always been there. And then, and we can go to whatever level of depth you want, but I mean, there were, a point in my life where, I had, an experience, whatever you want to call it. But for me, I had a radical moment of clarity. And that really began to illuminate, purpose, which is what I think of when I think about why am I here? The question, why am I here? In entirely new ways. Not that it was a clear, like it's all solved or resolved, but I began to wrestle it within new, healthy, productive ways that you would probably say is a knight's quest. The early before that moment, I think you would probably say, man, what a lost person, but I was still on a quest. Just I had no idea what I was searching for.
What was that like magical moment? Because I have to imagine, and maybe at the time it was like, whoa, but now in retrospect, is our friend Lee Brower was just saying in Toronto when we saw him, he said, God doesn't waste experiences. And so what was that experience that caused you to have this like radical like change?
Okay. All right. We're going there. So there's, yeah. So they're basically, I look back and there were seeds, right? So my dad's third marriage, you know, she had convinced him that I was like the big problem in their relationship and why they may not make it. They were having issues. And so they sent me to live with my grandparents, and first seed, major seed planted. I went from a home where, police would show up to break up fights. And there was just like a lot of slashing tires and throwing stuff and arguing and all that stuff. And I go live with my grandparents. And I'm sure it was the world's largest inconvenience to them, this teenage boy moving in with them. And, man, they took me under their wing. And they were just to see the way that they interacted with each other and engaged with each other, was just amazing. And I felt there was so much peace in the home. And my grandpa, who had always been my grandpa, but wasn't my actual, flesh and blood. Like he was actually my step grandpa, so to speak. He took me under his wing. And there's this quote, and it said, I forget who said it, but it's like, preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. My grandparents took me to church a couple times. Never do I recall them ever talking to me about this guy named Jesus, right? What I can tell you, though, is they walked the talk. I mean, they walked it. And I mean, he was an entrepreneur, and I would go on sales call, business calls with them. And it wouldn't matter if you were like, they had large school districts with their clients, and they were a technology company. They'd fix like microfiche computer or microfiche project and overhead projectors and all this equipment. It wouldn't matter if you were the superintendent of the school district or the janitor. My grandpa would remember you. He'd remember about your kid and the recital, and he just loved on people. And so big seed planted. It's like, there's something different there. Like, I wonder what that was. I went back to go live with my dad. Things progressed. Second major one that I can recall, there's probably too many, but the second one that like I just really, really recall was this guy named Trey, and his name was Trey Smith, and he was just one of those guys, man, that there was just something different about him, and I never could quite figure out like what it was, like why he seemed so different, but he just had something that I knew that I wanted, right? And it wasn't like whatever other people had, and that was second significant seed, right? And then the third one, I'd say kind of like the crux of it, and this is the most radical. It just shows I'm a slow learner. I was carjacked at gunpoint. I was in my 20s. I was doing well. I had my first entrepreneurial business. We had season tickets to the Mavericks, and I went to the Mavs game. And after the game, I met up with some friends in a real nice part of town at a bar to have some drinks after the game. And I got in an altercation with a guy who wanted my car, and we started a shouting match. Then I pushed him. He put a gun to me, and he put a gun to my head, got me on the ground. I obviously gave him the keys to my car, and he drove off, and it was like this whole ordeal. And that wasn't the moment, okay? But that was a very much like rock your world kind of moment. So like everything that you understand in regards to when something like that happens to you, everything that you can imagine from the way that you perceive the world, safety, your future, like everything seems like a little bit uncertain, right? I started like looking around. I was always kind of like paranoid of like someone's going to jump up around the corner, that kind of stuff. And because I had the keys to my house, I just bought my first home. I was going to make it a rental home. I was actually, are you down for this? I'm about to go into a pretty crazy story here. So I had two roommates, and I bought my first rental house, and I was fixing this house up at night. I was going to move my friends into it, and we were all going to live in this house together. Okay. And I'm not with this house late at night, with my rescue lab, and I'm tearing wallpaper. I got a good deal in the house that had like this terrible floral wallpaper on the wall. And I'm like, I have zero skill to do any of this work, but I'm doing it because I had no money, and I put all my money into buying the house. And I'm like stripping down wallpaper, and I had all of the locks in the house changed because the guy who carjacked me, he had my keys to my house, and he had my address and everything. So I changed all the locks. And so I'm up there, and as I'm working, we don't live there, right? I'm just there with tools. I'm up there late at night working on the house, and just me and my dog. And as I'm tearing down this wallpaper, Ben, my dog goes absolutely berserk, right? And she's like this super chill, labs are like super chill dogs. So I'm like, what's going on? But immediately I go into that fight or flight. I told you I've been paranoid a little bit because I got carjacked, right? So I'm looking around. I got nothing, so I grab a hammer, and I go to see like what the dog's barking at. And it's a split floor plan house. So there's two bedrooms on one side, and then the master bedroom on the other. So I leave the master bedroom where I've been tearing down the wallpaper. I get this hammer, and I don't know what the rating of the show is, but I'm like, all right, mother blinker, blah, 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 I'm going to kill. And I'm like, just trying to psych myself out because I'm scared, right? But I got the hammer, and I got what am I going to do? But I was so sick of feeling this fear, right? And so I go, and I walk around to the split floor plan. I walk from one side of the house to the other, and the dog is like pointing into these two rooms on the other side of the house, hair up on her neck, just going nuts. And I'm like, all right, mother, and I'm coming. And I walk around the corner, and I look into the room. The door's open. Mind you, No one lives here. The house is completely empty. I had all the locks changed, right? It's just me and the tools and the dog. And I walk in, I'm like, all right, and I come around the corner and guess what's there?
I have no idea.
A Bible
Are you serious?
sitting on the center of the floor of, of the room, dead center of the floor of that room. And I was like, oh, and I didn't even mean it at the time, but it was just like the way people say it. I was just like, oh, thank God, like, oh, wow. And I thought like, oh, something was about to go down, right? I was like, sorry, I grabbed the Bible, went back, tore down wallpaper. But I started like, how did that get there? How weird. How did that get there? Why is that there? Right. And so I'm not kidding you when I say this, man. I start like being like, I don't want anyone to think I'm crazy. This is a crazy story. Right. And in the Bible, there was glowing. It wasn't, there was no audible voice of God. It's just like a Bible that you could buy on Amazon now. There was no Amazon at the time. It's just like sitting there. Right. So it's like, all right. I'm like, but I had all the locks changed. No one had keys except for me. So I started like, hey man, you've been around the house? No, man, I don't even know where it's at. And I'm like, Dad, hey Dad, you been any idea what's going on? Like, you've been around the house? No, I haven't been out there. I can't wait to see it. No one had been in the house. And so time goes on, and I know it's a long story, but
No, this is rich.
you asked the question. I eventually started opening that Bible. I moved in with my friends and I just had that Bible laying around and I started opening it and I started reading the Bible for the first time in my life ever. Right?
And how old are you at this time?
23.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so anyway, I'm like, right around that age. And so I'm reading it for the first time. And man, I got to tell you, like, it started unlocking stuff and moving stuff around inside of me. And there were other seeds and other influences I could point to. Like now I look back, it's like a whole bunch of things all at once, I think. But it wasn't, probably a few months later, in that same room, I got on my knees and I gave my life to Jesus, man. And I have been perfect at imperfectly trying to walk that out ever since. I remember when I had that, I've never had anything maybe more, that's felt more real to me in my entire life. And, my life has been a wild adventure or a quest in a new way ever since.
That is incredible. When you look back over the previous 23 years, I'm always reminded of the lesson where, like Jesus coming to dinner, right? And someone knocks on the door, right? Hey, will you feed me? Then will you clothe me? Will you take me in? And when he finally shows up, and I feel like that's so true on how many things happen. It's such an incredible analogy of all the things that like happen in our life that people are knocking on these doors. And I'm curious, when you look back over that 23 years previously in kind of the new filter that you're seeing the world at, right? The new aperture. What really comes forth from there, where like opportunities where someone knocked on the door and that you were not listening?
I think it was there on a deeper level. If I wasn't a dumb teenager for my grandparents, I think it was there. There was a guy like, his name is Matt Queer. I remember his name. Like he was like the athlete, cool dude of the school, and he invited me over his house a couple of times, like hang out. And I bet you I've never synced up with him, but I think there was something there with him. And I raced BMX bikes with a friend of mine named Brandon Lee, and I remember, you reflect back on history a little bit and you think of people. I would often, after I became a believer, I was like, man, I wonder if he was a Christian, or I wonder if, and I would always go, cause like he was completely, he was in the mischief with all of us, but he always had like a boundary, like he wouldn't cross. And he was completely seemingly at home with being himself when the rest of us were all trying to be whatever we were trying to be. I would think about it often. And then it's so wild because after COVID, like he actually reached out to me like through social media, and we got together and literally we're having a brush. I was like, dude, this is a weird question, but like, I gotta know. And guess what? Bam, dude, there's the Holy Spirit. But I had no clue at the time, but through the new set of lenses, I could like sense that there was something with him when I reflected back on. And cool full circle, like we're buddies now. Like we hang out again. He does a lot of stuff here around Barnhill, and he's got a nonprofit where he goes and teaches kids that are like third generation fatherless how to ride BMX bikes and how to fix their own bikes. And he gathers bikes off Facebook and the community. It's called BMX Local. Awesome nonprofit. For anyone who wants to check it out, but he just goes in there and just loves on kids and loves on people and serves them. It's really cool. But I look back, right? And I just knew it, man. I just knew it. Also opportunities. So funny. I inherently knew, cause I was like kind of a party guy through college. I inherently knew that I did not want to meet my, like if I first of all, I never thought I'd get married. All right. So I got 7 marriages to my two parents, and a couple engagements didn't make the altar. So I kind of thought marriage is a joke. And then also from a religious standpoint, we sort of change religions often, like based on who we're married, or Catholic says you can't get married. So now we're Episcopalian. So I just, with faith thing, I was like, man, I don't know. Marriage, I don't know. But I inherently knew, like, if I ever did get married, I didn't want to meet my wife in a bar, right? It's kind of, I go embarrassed to say this, but like my buddies and we're in our 20s, and we start going to this church because we heard there were good looking girls there, right? And so we're going to this church to meet good looking girls. And so anyway, it's really funny because like I look back, seeds are constantly being planted. I was showing up, I was hearing God's word. They were being taught to me in a way that I could actually receive them and think about like applying them. But I never was willing to like turn over control, right? You go on the adventure or the quest. And so anyway, like I just always, but funny, man. So it's funny how it works. So then I, don't meet anyone that way. However, a buddy of mine gets, after I've had this transformation, I'm now a Christ follower. A buddy of mine gets married from college to this girl, who's he was one of my fraternity brothers. And, he marries this girl who's in a sorority. And, I was asked to be in the wedding, and, guess who was asked to be in the wedding as well?
Corey,
my wife. But that's where we met.
Where?
The engagement party, which is where do you think the engagement party was?
At a bar.
At a bar. So it shows to me the infinite humor of God, right? That he could play infinite chess, checkmate our ass when he wants to. But I was just like, and someone will hear that, so that's crazy. But for me, I just think it's so hilarious. I go to church literally to try to pick up girls. I don't find what I want, but I get what I need, which is another step towards a relationship with Jesus, right? And then only God's infinite ability can I then meet my wife at a bar, who, by the way, went to that church, but it was so big we had never met.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so crazy, man, so crazy. And here we are, like 23 years married. Another transformation as part of the quest. There's no way that's possible. I look at my life, the models, all the things, and sure, a lot of work and a lot of transformation, a lot of renewing my mind and learning from other people could all go into that. And the incredible grace that's been in our relationship and being aligned on a higher purpose beyond ourselves, has been the recipe for 23 years of being married to my best friend and business partner.
That's amazing. Amazing. Hey, I'm curious. I want to go back. So at 23, you have this this incredible like this goes so well with this idea that you're like this modern knight. I mean, it's like you have this Excalibur moment, right? Where it's like you see the Bible and it starts you down this road. And I'm really curious at that time, that question that you kept asking yourself, what is it all for, right? What am I here for? What was the answer then? And I'm curious. And can you walk us from 23, then meeting Corey, and then as you've continued to kind of get to where you're at today, can you talk through that narrative of what you thought it was then, right? Because I'm guessing every year you ask that question and it changes.
I ask it daily. In fact, I say on the subject of purpose, and I've told you this. I'm actually in the process. I've done talks on this. I'm now writing, co-authoring, collaborating on a book on the subject. But I would say I still ask this question every day, and really almost in every interaction, like even before we came on here. So it's just, why am I here? What is this for? Like, what's the purpose of this moment, right? But I would say early on, being just new, like I was like, man, if I view these three things, right? Like I very much, I was at the point in that I had success. It wasn't like my life was broken when I had this moment, right? Where I felt like, I was radically rescued, right? And so I had this moment. But I remember early on the not being naive, like, oh, if I just stop doing these three things, I'm going to be good with God, right? Like it's like, he said, I already had three convictions lined up that I was like, okay, if I'm surrendering my life to him, I know he's not okay with these three things, right? And so it's just funny, but it's like, so I think the first one, like when that happened, I had success, but I would have told you, looking back, I kind of was stuck in a little bit of like an Eeyore mindset trap. And I just really didn't think that I did matter, that it did like I was already having enough success and enough of the things that I think a lot of people want at an early age. As an entrepreneur, as a this, as that, like that, in dating life or whatever, like I had enough of success that I kind of like, it's like, there is no purpose. There is no meaning. You remember Eeyore, like from Winnie the Pooh, oh, like she was just always like, and so while that was my expression, I felt that way internally. I just felt like this is sort of meaningless. So that was like intervention. Then what I kind of fell in the trap of is, okay, I have these things that as I'm reading God's word, that I know that like aren't part of being useful, right? And so I joke about the three things like, oh, but what I found was there was no end to the amount of cleanup I could do in my life. Right. And I'm not knocking. I had Christian counseling. I've read every kind of book. I've been through counseling. I've been like all kinds of stuff to heal and clean up like things from my past and wounds and things that I was like actively a part of doing to myself, but then also times that they just happened to me, right? Like it, but there was no amount, like I call it the onion mindset, because there was just no amount of layer. Every time I pulled a layer back, there would be something like revealed to me, like, man, like, and again, so I fell a little bit in this trap of like performative. I'm an achiever type of personality. And it's like, well, man, if I could just clean up my life enough, then God would really show me what this is for, what's the purpose of it, right? Like, and so I had this onion mindset. I just had to clean up get all the layers of the onions. But meanwhile, as I'm digging, I'm missing opportunities all around me to have an impact. So I'm just going deep. And I'm not negating that there was good things that came out of the cleanup, right? And that I still won't try to, work on things that I'm convicted of today, right? Imperfectly, but like there, I was just very much ingrained of like, I can't be useful until I this out, which again is a fallacy, but that's where I was at, right? My performance type personality, that's where it took me. Then as I continue, not that I felt like, oh, I'm holy or anything like that. I eventually started to fall into a new mindset trap that I'm going to talk about in this book, which is this burning bush mindset. I'm literally like, hey, Lord, we're connected. I've given you my life. I'm looking around. I'm waiting for that burning bush. We all know the story, like, because I made Disney movies about it, but it's the bush is not consumed with the fire. And the voice of God is like, Moses, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. I was waiting for that, like, bam, like moment, like, obvious, right? And so I'm walking around looking for this burning bush, and our friend Dan Sullivan would call it the gap, right? But that's where I started, like, it to take me. It's like, I'm just like looking around for this big thing. Meanwhile, I'm missing all these little smoldering fires all around me where I can be useful, I can be helpful, I can be impactful, I can have purpose for today. And so I fell into, for a big period of time, this burning bush mindset, and I still go to it sometimes today. And then as I started to wrestle with these things and I started to unlock these things, because that's how I'm wired, as you know, is like, how do I sort this out? And I'm trying to pray through, I'm trying to process it. I'm trying to seek outside counsel. I'm trying to talk to people that really, really seem to have it all together. And I start to unlock these things. And then I even created tooling around like it for myself. We're in coach, right? So I literally have a tool. There was a spreadsheet that I'd fill out every day, every one of my interactions. And I would like literally go through and I pray for every meeting. And I would go through a series of questions to really, really make sure that Eeyore became less of a problem, but like I wasn't falling in the onion or the burning bush traps. Right. And then as that went, I held it. I started seeing fruit from it. I started feeling like I had more purpose in every interaction and every day. I started feeling unlocked. And I even felt this conviction to share it, but I would hold it. I would hold it close because it was like my thing. And I thought it was just me. And I thought I was the only weirdo. And then I joined EO and YPO and Coach and all these organizations where I start realizing that like there are a lot of people that struggle with this idea of purpose, right? And people that I thought had made it. It was like, well, if I only had this level of success, if I had $20 million in the bank, then I'm going to feel like I'm like that guy surely got it, right? Because it's time, money, relationships, and purpose. Purpose is the pinnacle, right? It's at the top. They're at the top. Well, no, guess what? A lot of them are still wrestling with purpose. So it's like, again, how do I find purpose on the daily, no matter where I'm at, if I'm a school teacher or an entrepreneur or whatever, right? And so, but as I started having success, I started feeling a conviction to share it. I started sharing it more. I eventually had it designed up. I shared it in a couple of different ways. It's now becoming the book. But the thing that I have to fight against most now, as this thing continues to unfold and my life continues to unfold, and so many fruitful byproducts from having purpose be at the center of everything I do, instead of like this afterthought, the habit of living purposefully is now unlocked value creation. And my businesses, I can tell you both of them, none of them would exist if purpose wasn't highly, highly involved. Most of the value creation effect is formed through purpose. And so that intentionality and all of it, what I have to fight now is this idea, the trap. And I'm not super prone to it because I'm always like in the sort of achiever type of mindset. But where I see a lot of really successful people struggle is the legacy trap, which is like back to this weird thing of like, what are people going to think about me, which we have zero control over. It's a complete fallacy. We have no control. I have no control what you think about me, what you'll say about me after I die. All I have control is how I'm showing up right now. And the rest is, it to be determined, right?
First off, can you talk a little bit about the book, what it's going to be about? And then I want to come back to this idea in terms of the purpose and how you do it on the daily and how that's impacted by actually being in purpose and how that's actually given new meaning and quite frankly, new success to your, it's a tailwind versus a headwind. But talk a little bit about the book. I think it's super important.
So anyway, wherever you want to go with it. So basically I've had the book 80% written. I'm working with our mutual friend, Terry Oberbrunner, shout out to Terry and the Ignited Souls team. And a friend of mine, Todd Pinkston, who's the founder of Way Forward Adventures, is going to be my co-author on the book. And basically it's I've read all the books, and so many of the purpose books are like this thick, and it's like this weighty subject, and we're all bogged down with it. And I have pursued this thing my entire life, every which way. And what I really have found ultimately is the more I can live my life purposely on the daily as a habit, the more I find burning bushes, the more I, have transformational impact in the lives of others. Half the time, I'm not even conscious of it. But because I showed up purposefully and ready, I didn't know what the day was going to bring, but I was in a much better position than when I was in the Eeyore trap or one of the other, self-absorbed, trying to clean up myself, or self-absorbed, just waiting for this audible voice of God that I just couldn't see around me. And so the book is going to be about that. It's going to be lightweight. How do we make this thing not complex, not weighty? How do we make it really simple where anybody can grab a handle, grab handles and just start, have purpose on the day, the same day that they read this really, really short book. Because not only that, we're giving the tooling of the spreadsheet I felt forever that's now a design form. We're providing tooling for people to just start building the habit, the purpose muscle. And we've got the questions to unlock to keep you out of all these mindset traps I've mentioned. And I really have experienced purpose, personally, and now in many people that I've shared it with, EOS, EO, YPO, all these different things where I've had opportunities to share, people that have applied this type of thinking, even if they never felt the tool, the more they can get the tool in their mind and just be looking for these things. We've seen a lot of purpose unlocked for people.
That is absolutely incredible. And when should readers be able to think that this might be available?
Yeah, it should be out in October. I'm going to bring the entrepreneurial stories and Way Forward Adventures. My co-author, Todd Pinkston, he's going to bring this stories from the trail. Way Forward is an amazing organization that I just literally just went on a trip on, and they take you into the wilderness. They take all your technology. They free you from everything. You'll know when you're going to eat, when you're going to sleep. You'll know what mountain you're on, and you literally have to trust your guide. And you have time alone to just be with yourself in a small, very small group of people and go just deep. And it's the ultimate, it's the Muskogee of purpose experiences. So anyone who's looking for that type of an adventure, can't speak highly enough of those guys. And he's going to be bringing the trail and the transformations and what we're trying to do. What I realize is I've sort of got the trenches, and he's had the mountaintop experiences that then transform wires back down in the valley. And so we've partnered up to bring those two together, so that people coming off the mountaintop can have more handles to come down, to the valley and live in the daily with purpose. And then also for him, or for me to take this, and then anyone who goes through and uses the tooling, but really wants the ultimate experience, the capstone course of purpose, Way Forward, in my mind, is the unlock for that.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure to include a link in the show notes, so people want to go check that out. Steven, one of the things that I think it's important the audience understands is that your level of wonder and discernment is it's just next level. So I think that when people who are going to be reading this book, I think are going to come away. I've been in a room as I've watched you coach other entrepreneurs, and you always ask these incredibly insightful questions, which actually up until today, I didn't realize that hey, going back to 3 years old, you're asking, what am I here for? What's this all about? And I mean, that's an incredible question. My question I have for you is, how do you consistently do that on a day-to-day basis? I mean, there's a lot of consistency and not only that, but I feel like you more than anyone, I feel like you take these incredible leaps, these incredible trust falls as you're asking these questions, right? Because talk to me about how to consistency and how you've learned to just listen to that intuition that says, whether I want to or not, I just need to trust that this is where I need to go.
Well, what I would tell you is it is a wrestle. I mean, it is something that I'm just maybe wired a bit for. I think the tooling helps people do it. And to be clear, I don't remember as 3, but as it's from an early stage, I can remember, right? Wondering these things. And I think that people intuitively have this, whether they share my faith or not. And the book is not a theological book. I mean, I think it's practical for anyone. What I can tell you though, is having, for me, beginning with a moment, right, where I feel like I was radically rescued and transformed, or began a transformative process. The more that I have trusted and sacrificed maybe what I want or what I thought was best to actually be obedient to what I felt like I was called to do, not what I felt like doing, right? And I just did the right thing. What I have seen is over a period of time, and it's not always that way. Like there've been times like, oh gosh, man, but what I can tell you is over a time, you do it long enough, you experience things. Our friend Dan Sullivan also has this quote: our eyes only see and our ears only hear what our mind's looking for, right? And so for me, over and over and over again, trust following, as you called it, right? I call it walking, walking in faith, like, and not by sight. I have experienced more and more things that are affirmed to me that it just doesn't pencil. Like it doesn't pencil. And it's honestly the wildest adventure I've been on. I was on a wild adventure before. This is the wildest of wild adventures, because I've done all kinds of things in my life that I did not want to do, that made zero sense, that I was certain was going to ruin, by my best understanding and by maybe even people I trusted would say that, man, I don't know that that's smart. And it has unlocked things that it's so much better than what I could have imagined. And not like, oh, so good and more money and this and that, the other, but like just this like incredible peace, these incredible relationships, and the ability to like weather incredible storms too. And just know that it's going to be okay. Like it's going to be okay.
Well, I love that. Well, and I love the story of you just listening to that, your faith journey, and in terms of, you had been so successful that, quite frankly, I think it's fair to say that if you had done nothing after you exited your last business, you'd be fine. But you had a gut intuition. Can you share the story of what you're currently on? Because I think this is one of those stories where, what are you doing, Steven? Like, what are you buying this? This seems like you're buying a job, and so share with the audience what you're currently working on now, and how you got there, because, and not only that, but what has not only transformed for you and your family, but also transformed for the community that you're in because of your intention, your purpose that you show up every day with.
Sure. And you might have to like flush a few of those points out. I'm going to just start with like sort of the beginning, which is, we had an exit, right? Whatever you want to call it. My wife and I had a guest room home. I bought a list of a couple thousand businesses, and I cold called and begged people to buy insurance. With the worst existence on the face of the earth. I would literally fax people. That's how long ago this was. And I'd because I get tired of people hanging up me, I'd say, hey, did you get the fax? Just terrible, terrible existence. Thanks to Dan Sullivan, thanks to strategic coach, I learned how to create value for people. And that business had favor. We built an amazing team. We scaled it and built it. And it grew and grew and grew. And ultimately, I knew that my future was outside of it, but not in it. And so we exited that business. My mindset, where I was at that time, was, okay, like I'm going to serve, I'm going to do those things. And the way I'm going to do it, is we're completely debt free. I'm going to invest only in passive investments, because I don't want to work. Like I don't have to work. I just want to serve, and I want to serve, and I have total freedom. Right. And on top of that, Ben, we had just finished completely updating the home we were living in. I mean, I'm talking like literally custom lighting in the closets. I'm talking every drawer had customization in it for the things that we owned. I mean, the house was everything we wanted, or so we thought. Right. And so I'm looking through these investments online. LoopNet, you're probably familiar with this, like a commercial So I'm going through and I'm looking for passive, for investments. I've got a bunch of friends in real estate that are really good at what they do. And so I would like send them this thing. Hey, what do you think about this industrial project? Right. And if they wanted to do it, then I would invest in it. And then they were the GP. And I was like, great, I'm fine. Right. No debt, no risk, no risk of them when I put into the deal. It's perfect. Right. So I'm flipping through LoopNet and I see this beautiful property, completely gorgeous. Right. And I'm like, that's incredible. And I look at it, it's got the star drop for like the pin where it's supposed to be. And it's like not far from us, right? It's just like outside of town. And I'm like, what fake? That's fake. I was like, that's got to be Austin or Hill Country or something like that. Not up in Dallas. You have nothing like that in Dallas, right? And so anyway, I'm looking through and I go down and I click the seller's disclosure. And so the seller's disclosure has, all the typical stuff. Roof replaced in 2008, blah, 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 And at the very bottom, as I'm flipping through this seller's disclosure, it's like, why am I selling? And the person, the old owner, he's now a dear friend of mine. He's like, this may sound crazy to you, but I'm a Christian and I keep having this recurring dream. And I don't know if it's from God or not, but I feel this conviction that we're supposed to move, my wife and I are supposed to move to Houston to take care of our parents. And so this is just my act of obedience to see if I'm supposed to sell this place or not. So literally I'm blown away by this. I'm like, this guy's just scared away half of his buyers. Like it's done. Right. And so I go and my wife's in the bathroom, cause I was in my little thinking spot in her master bedroom, perfectly landscaped, like everything just, I go in there in this perfect bathroom. We had this custom mirror made and all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, look at this. And she starts looking at the pictures. She goes, wow, that's really beautiful. She's like, that's not near Dallas. Same thing as I said. I was like, no, forget about that. Read this. And she starts reading the guy's letter, Dean's letter. She's like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I want to meet him. And she's like, oh no. She's like, you want to buy it, don't you? I was like, no, I'm not saying that. I was like, I just want to meet him. He's either the real deal or he's completely bat crap crazy. Right. And I was like, I want to know. I love people like that. And I want to find out. Right. And so, it was no. Finally, she said yes. And we checked out the property and we met Dean and this is the height of everything's going crazy in real estate. Just nuts, right? Nuts. Is multiple people looking at the property coming with offers that day while we're out there. But we meet him in his house just by happenstance. We have this long conversation. We hit it off. And he decides, he tells his realtor on the way out, and it's like, hey, I really like that couple. I think it's them. And so he's like, hey man, the realtor calls me, he's like, hey, I know it's not a ploy because I saw the other people look, he's like, Dean just like, you could just give like a reasonable offer. He really thinks you guys are the people to buy this property. Okay. And so I talked to Corey and she's like, honey, no, it makes no sense. We're debt free. We got nothing. Like everything's like passive, she's like, you can't change a light bulb without breaking it. It's a vineyard. You don't even drink. What the heck are we going to do? What do you know about music? We do live music and concerts, right? And so she's like, what do you know about music? I was like, nothing. You're right. Well, I know nothing. And she's like, that's not it. And I was like, okay, well, if you're not on board, I'm not on board. I was like, I'm just saying. And so anyway, we had this interchange. I told her a couple more times, there's something I feel like I can't explain it. I haven't heard the audible voice of God, but I just feel this like nudging that we're supposed to do this. And we ended up going to a conference, and long story short, God's been working on her. She comes around at the conference and she's like, hey, honey, if it's available, she's like, I don't want to tell you this, but I'm just scared. It's scary to me. And she's like, but if it's still available and they're willing to do a deal with us, I'm open. I literally called them from the conference. We're up in Ohio. And we had lunch the next week, or dinner, Lee and Dean, his wife, and Corey. And at one dinner setting, we had so much fun. In about 15 minutes, negotiated a handshake deal for the place. And as crazy as all that sounds, he had multiple offers. He was about to sell, but now, like, the thing that we didn't know at the time that was really important to him was he was a former pastor and worship at a church. And a lot of our staff for the vineyard were his former church staff. And he didn't want someone that was just going to come in, be only about the money. And so he had a real specific buyer in mind, and we fit the bill. And so anyway, we end up doing the deal. Is the craziest deal. No, he should have never done this deal, Ben. He should have never done this deal. He should have taken the money, everything in the world. He's the one that deserves the price here because he took the real risk. He sold it when he could have had cash in hand. He had to wait till we had our second liquidity event. Well, like all this kind of stuff that we negotiated on a handshake. And it was the most beautiful thing. And the craziest thing, okay, and I could give you 100 things at why I felt the nudges along the way. But there's just one story that has to be told, I think, in this, which is my dad. Okay, so my dad and I, we've always had, a bit of like, tumultuous, and most of it was me. In fact, my dad was probably another big seed. He went through a radical transformation in his life, and he really, really stood for me. But I wanted nothing to do other than to please him. Like I really wasn't into the faith conversation with him, right? Because we had just had so much water on the bridge. Well, my dad and I had a better relationship, but I wouldn't call it like great, right? And he got pulmonary fibrosis, which is a lung condition that basically it's like hardens your lungs, right? And he was dying, and there was no one there. He's single. My sister at the time was 20 years old. I had my half sister, and she wasn't old enough to take care of him. And so it was basically either my dad was going to die or we had to step up and help be like its support partner to have a lung transplant if he could even get lungs. Okay. So now he's got this condition. He can't leave his house hardly at all. He's got this oxygen mask, 200 feet of cord hooked up to this machine, dying a slow death, alone other than my sister. Right. And my dad is a collector of wine. And so when COVID happened, COVID was the ultimate, like if my dad got COVID, he was dead because his lungs were such bad shape. It was just like, it was an absolute, we know you're going to die if you get COVID. And so guy's done multiple tours of Vietnam. He's toured the world. He's lived an adventurous life. What do you tell the man who can't hardly leave his house? Right. So he finds this place and he starts going to it and he keeps telling me about it and my wife, and he keeps going on and on and on about it. And he talked about it so much, man, that it's just driving us like crazy. And we go online and my wife does it. Corey does. She goes online and buys him a gift card to this place called Barnhill Vineyards. Okay. And we give it to him as a Father's Day gift. Well, guess what? When we visited the property that I saw that testimony, we went out and the place that we now sit, I had no idea, but we started going through the process and I was like, oh my Lord, this is the place that my dad would not shut up about. And so literally we had a concert and my dad and he kept forgetting to use the gift card. And he was like, hey, I really want to take you. I'm going to use the gift card you guys gave me. And I want to take you and Corey out to this place. And I got to call him and say, hey, Dad, guess what? You know that concert we're about to go to? He's like, yeah. It's like, are you sitting down? And he's like, why? Is everything okay? I was like, yeah, everything's fine, but you might want to sit down. And so literally he's like, what's up? And I'm like, you know, that place is like, oh, you're going to love it, Steven. It's such a wonderful place. I can't wait to share with you. I was like, Dad, you're not going to believe it. We're buying it. And he's like, what? It's like, you don't even drink wine. Why would you buy, literally that was his first reaction. But I was like, I know a guy could be my wine guy. And so anyway, get this, Ben, we close on deals, like this interesting transaction that makes no sense for Dean, but it ended up working out for everybody beautifully. But my dad, I said goodbye to him, like not this Thanksgiving, but the Thanksgiving before, like just like, because I didn't know he got the call he's going to get new lungs, and the doctors weren't sure if he survived the surgery. And I got to tell him goodbye. He survived the surgery. He got his new lungs, and he came to live with us here on property at Barnhill Vineyards. And he got to do his daily walks and his recovery in the beautiful property that he had so fallen in love with. And so he got that full experience. On the front side, it looks like he went to Barnhill. We laid that up, but the tapestry of what's going on behind the scenes and all the threads, like in a million years, you could not write that. And so, yeah. So anyway, he's doing really well. In fact, he's planning his trip to Korea to go visit my sister who's studying abroad.
Wow.
But that's what we're doing. So we host live music, so we sold that house. We uprooted our family. We moved out here. We host live music and events, built community every Friday and Saturday night. That's something my wife and I have done since we were first married in that first house I told you about where I had the experience. We'd always invite people in. We love matchmaking and bringing people that didn't know each other together. We'd make a meal. We'd serve them. Then our kids started doing it. We would dress up and serve our kids. We'd like dress up and have like the plate, chicken nuggets and act like we're like in a fancy restaurant. We've been doing it our whole marriage. And now we have a place where we do it on such a scale that, Ben and Jenna can bring their best friends and they can have a party inside of our party. We provide live music, great wine. And, it's 40 acres. There's horses and donkeys and all kinds of animals and beautiful sunsets and trees and pond and all the stuff you can't get in the concrete jungle of Dallas.
What's crazy about this is that this all anchors back to, though, God putting you and Corey together in a bar. Who knew? Who knew that might have been the first knock on it? Hey, Steven, you spent your life asking that question, like, why am I here? And what's this all for? Why is purpose for many people the last thing they try to uncover? And more importantly, why is finding your purpose so darn hard?
I can't answer why people, because I think the answer is different for everybody. And if I reflect back, I think my answer was different at every given season, right? Even when I struggle with it today, it's one of the faulty mindsets generally. But there's something that seems more important, more significant, more I have to be in control of, more self-focused. I mean, honestly, the beginning of all purpose is really asking, how can I be of value to someone else? And then trusting that whether you believe in the faith part of it or not, that somehow or another, that will bear fruit. Right. And Zig Ziglar said it, and I know he's a believer, but he said it in a very, help enough people get what we've all heard it. You help enough people get what they want. You have no problem getting what you want. Right. And so, there's a chasm between those two things. And I think it's very easy for me to want to be in charge, make sure I get mine, that I'm in control. But if I can get myself, just first question though, is in the book every day, it's like, how can I show up? What's the value I can add? And I may not even know it, but how can I get myself in a position that I can add value to Ben Laws in this conversation or to this audience? Right. And so that's tricky because I think inherently we're inundated with messages, experience in life that don't always reinforce that. Right. And so that was the first question. The second one you asked was, remind me again.
I said, why is finding your purpose so hard?
Well, I think one is that, right? It's hard to get out of that zone. And then secondly, I just think we make it too gosh darn weighty. We think we have so much control that we don't have, right? And so we can have, and that's what we're trying with this book. You could have a 300-page, thing on purpose, but really it's much more simple than I think many of us think. And if we're paying attention, it'll become more clear as you go, and just develop the habit of being purposeful. And so that fuels, the more you put it first, the more that fuels everything, right? Superpowers, our business with executive assistants and how we serve entrepreneurs, the real value creation is we are purposeful on a level that I mean, I dare say no one else even comes close to in the way that we think about it and how we try to put the entrepreneur first and how we really try to think of the assistant and how do we really, what's the raw ingredients to really create a transformational relationship where people get out of their own way and something much better is created, teamwork's created than the typical idea of an assistant. We wrote about this in our book, Superpower. It's like the typical assistant, it's like, oh, I'm delegating down and I get all this crap off my plate, right? Versus like, no, this is a delegation up. If it's important enough for me to do at one point, it's important work. And I want someone it's like I'm giving it to them and they're racing with the baton and good things are going to happen from that. And so all of that is very purposeful thinking. That sounds kind of weighty, but what we really try to do is like break it down into handles. Like, what is the action? What are the things we can do to unlock that? Right. And that's why we developed that business curriculum, coaching, community, right? There's no degree for an executive assistant. Entrepreneurs are terrible at training. So we train the assistant, we match them and we train them and then we coach. Initially, we thought we were just going to have to coach the assistants on how to be great for the entrepreneur. But we found out a lot of entrepreneurs are terrible delegators and we had to coach the entrepreneur and how to let go and how to trust and all the same things that robs them of their purpose because they want to be in control. But there's that chasm of like, if I'm going to work on something higher, there's a jump that I got to make. I got to trust, right? And I've got to like hand this off. And so coaching the entrepreneur through that and then community. I had back to my early days before I had the relationship, the radical rescuing of me in my walk and my journey. I had a community that supported all the really bad ideas I had. Right. And so we were all just going the blind, leading the blind. And not, again, we're all in our own journey of that. But now I'm in transformational communities. I have friends like you that are like up to things. We may not agree on every single thing and all, but like at the end of the day, it's like, dude, I love you. I know you're up to good in the world and I'm going to support you in that. And I'm not expecting the return, but I believe if like every bin laws in my life, crushes it, I know that really good things are happening in the world. I'm going to be just fine. And so the community is so important. So we've created that community and brought intentionality to create, just like we have a strategic coach together for the executive assistants, right? And so all we're doing is like, instead of purpose is an afterthought, we're like very, very purposeful and our feet at the front now. And then how do we bring that down to the tooling and the day-to-day actions and habits that really, really unlock purpose, and transformation.
What are the three, because one of the things I think that you are excellent at is thinking about what are the questions we should be asking. And I think that's what makes you such an incredible coach. I think that's probably what makes you such an incredible leader. I think that makes you an incredible husband and father is that, and I've seen, you and I have had conversation I see on your LinkedIn, like you ask these really great questions. You and I were talking about when your daughter decided that your oldest daughter wanted to date, that, is about what are the questions that I want to ask him. I want to interview the young man who wants to take your daughter out on a date. And it kind of in that vein, what are the three questions you think that everyone, if they just want an easy starting spot to ask themselves every day, what are the questions they could be asking themselves if they're really inspired by your purpose-led, purposeful life that they should ask? And then the follow-on question to that is, what are the three ones that you think that people aren't asking that they should be asking?
Okay. So I would say the three, I think they're kind of similar and it would be hard to ask, like to say what people aren't asking. Cause I think, this is again, very, very simple. You're gonna be like, man, I can't believe this guy's writing a book about this, but, what is the biggest difference I can make, like that this will make for someone else? Like, so let me back that up. Probably the question often people aren't asking, they're unintentional with their time. So what are the roles I'm going to play, right? I'm a husband, I'm a father, what are the roles? What are the interactions I know I'm going to have, planned or unplanned? I know I'm going to pick my kid up from the school. I'm not, going on a date night with my wife. I've got this time event, like just being contextually aware of interactions for me to be purposeful. Because to answer on the time, money, relationships, purpose, right? I find it really interesting that none of them are valuable without relationship in my mind. Purpose without a relationship, it means nothing, right? Money without relationship, there's no value to my money if I'm the only person in the world. All the time, why would I even measure time unless there's some sort of context or a relationship? So for me, being contextually aware of the relationships, like just inventory on the day, what are those? Then the one I said first, is really second, once you have that awareness, what's the biggest difference I can make in each of these interactions? And I may or may not know that. It may be just for me to be present. I don't know what you need, Ben. I'd be presumptive sometimes, right? Sometimes you really know, right? Because they said, hey, I want to meet with you about this, or whatever, right? But I'm doing the impact filter. And so you know what they're like really wrestling with. But what's the biggest difference I can make? And once I'm really clear on that, difference I can make for you, what is the worst me? I know myself. I've done all the onion work. I'm pretty much know where I tend to screw things up. What's the worst me that I can bring to this interaction that would prevent me from doing that? Like showing up like that for you. I'm selfish. I'm prideful, blah, 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 whatever the thing is, right? I cannot be present. I could be, if it's my kids, maybe I'm just distracted with my cell phone. Instead of putting this stupid phone away, right? That could be my worst self. I'm not always I'm not present, right? And then conversely, third question, what's the best me, right? So if I'm going to kill off that, the idea of what's the worst me, and I kind of say, okay, that's what I don't want. I'm setting that aside. What's the best me, right? I think those three things, if you can get clear on those things, that was actually probably four, but and I've got a couple of these in the book, but it's just so simple. And you will start, if you're just doing that, you start journaling, I guarantee, and that's what the tool, right? You will begin to see smoldering, things that you didn't think were there, you will now see. You will now have the lenses, the eyes only see, and our ears only hear, what our minds are. You're going to see purpose, right? Whether you see it from a spiritual standpoint or not, you're going to see things in a way that you haven't seen.
I love all of those, and I'm excited for me to actually get really clear on those questions, because simple questions that I feel like that you keep. And by the way, I've witnessed this with you. So the audience, as you were talking, be like, oh, it's great, he's writing a book. Here's the thing that with Steven doesn't ask anyone to do anything that he hasn't done himself first. As you clearly heard, if he will tell you what it feels like to walk into a wall because he's done it first. And I think that, all joking aside, but truly I think that's who you are. When you think about the guesses and bets that often many of the people who are listening to this are entrepreneurs, high performers, and it's what we do, right? We catalyze, fear and uncertainty into clarity and confidence and so many different things. Yet we don't ask these questions, or maybe we ask the question, but we don't actually spend the meaningful time to have a clear and confident answer in what that is. If someone did a guess and bet and said, I'm going to bet that this next 90 days or this next year, I'm going to ask this question every single day, what does that look like for them?
My experience and the experience of others is, again, having the vision to be able to see things that they're right in front of you. I'm dating myself, but many of the audience will remember posters when they were kids. And back in the 80s, if you stared at them long enough, a 3D object would reveal itself. There was just a bunch of dots, but if you stare at it, something would jump out at you. If someone would do this, you ask yourself these questions and then pay attention and journal, what happened after. I'm 100% confident after a few weeks, they're going to see patterns of one, either true onion work. There are some things we need to work on ourselves. That's blocking our potential, blocking our purpose, right? Or we'll see new little smoldering fires, not burning bushes, but things that may be a burning bush. They just need a little bit of love and wind to blow on it, and it might burn a little bit more or a little brighter, right? And so and you get out of the I don't matter trap, which is destructive to everybody around you, right? He kills. We all met Eeyore. He means well, but he steals the energy. He sucks the oxygen out of the room, right?
So true.
The legacy is like, it's just like, man, that's so, I don't know, man. It's just like, and so I really think that you'll start to see things in new ways that will unlock all kinds of potential and momentum, where you start to feel called, compelled, pushed, like to do things in new ways and try things differently. And not as like some way of getting results, but who you get to become, which then unlocks all kinds, because you're now a new person, it unlocks all types of potential. I was once like a criminal. Like when I was 17 years old, I was a criminal, or I was doing criminal type things when I was lost. And now what I would tell you, we're breaking into cars, all kinds of dumb stuff. Like that gave me a certain set of results. Well, I became not a criminal even before I had the interaction with the Lord. But I was like, all right, that didn't work. I'm not going to do that anymore. I became not a criminal. Like, I'm never going to say that. I'm the guy who gets like accidentally like a pack of gum in his bag that my kids would put in. I'd go back and return it or pay for it. Right. Like I became the opposite, but that unlocked a whole new set of possibilities for people. And the same goes here when you start to see things in new lenses and how you have to show up differently. And the more you show up differently, then it unlocks things that you can't even fathom. I never would have thought that we could make the jump to come here, which has been one of the greatest adventures in so many ways: faith, family, community impact, all that, marriages, all the things that really matter to me. I couldn't have done it if I didn't, or I couldn't look back and look at a whole history of where me taking those jumps to be my best self, to be obedient, to go where I felt like led and called, to do the right thing, even though it didn't make sense, all work out. It's like a snowball.
It's incredible. I mean, you really have been on this incredible quest with trials and tribulations. You had your Excalibur moment. You had your Guinevere moment, right? And then you had this incredible quest where that you were called upon to really reveal yourself. It is truly incredible, and it's so interesting as I look upon what you've done. You have two purposeful and purpose-built and purposeful built companies, right? You have a purposeful book in superpowers, right? And now you're writing another purpose-built book, Freedom from Purpose.
Children's book.
Yeah, you got children's book. Yeah, talk a little bit about that.
Those were small bets. They felt big at the time, like huge, because they were self-published. We had to come out a resource at the business, this or that, but I felt like I was supposed to do it. We did it. My wife and I did it. And if I could spend a whole nother hour telling you about the impact, and not that it sold millions or whatever, but it made the impact in a few lives that were so precious to us that like, we were like, wow. And if you had asked me that check you had to write to self-publish your book that we were nervous over cutting, like if you had told me on the front end that check was going to result in the transformation in that person's life, my wife's grandmother, we would have emptied our bank account. We would have sold our cars and houses to make that happen. And the check seems so small in retrospect. And so then that, again, boom, like when we thought about Barnhill, it like you can look back to that and say, wow, look at that. Like, let's do it. Let's be obedient. Like, what's going to happen? I don't know.
That's so incredible. I'm curious, with all the books that you have sold, if you divide it by the investment, how much did it cost for that book that you gave your grandma?
Slow obedience is better than no obedience. So I felt the conviction to write that book for my wife's grandmother, or Nana. I didn't write it for her. I felt the conviction to write the book. I didn't have kids at the time. Everything about it sounded crazy. I was like, what creepy guy writes a children's book? Right. But it came out of my Bible study. I was like, I told my wife, I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to write this book. So we don't have kids. All right. And so like, I go through this whole, like, I'm trying to write it. I mean, I wrote the book. I had the idea. I wrote the whole thing in 15 minutes. Then it took me 15 years of starts and stops. It's the least entrepreneurial driven thing I've done. I kept failing. I pick it back up. I'd feel convicted. Like I'm supposed to be obedient. I need to do this. I'd pick it back up. I'd run forward with the ball and then I'd hit the next thing and it'd like fumble again. Right. And so I just kept doing it over and over and over again to where the book was literally almost done. Right. Almost done. And the check I had to write at the time was, I mean, this was a while ago, but it was like $8,500. But at the time, like there was just 1,000 things over that 15 years. I now have kids. I now have all these things that more than $8,000 for like a vanity project on a children's book. Give me a freaking break. Probably gonna sell hundreds of copies at best. You gotta be kidding me, right? But it's like, all right, I'm like, I cannot shake this that I'm supposed to do this. It makes no sense. I'm gonna write it. The book literally is a children's book. It's called Dogs on Heaven Street. And it's a parable for the gospel. And so anyway, there are these dogs in the book. They all have these unique abilities and these talents. And they live this beautiful mansion with the father and son. And so one by one, even though the dogs do the talents and the father and son love the talents of the dogs, they will do things to make messes in the beautiful white mansion. And as they make the messes, one by one, they have to go outside. They have to be separated. They got to go outside because they made a mess, right? And so they're outside and literally this beautiful white mansion is getting just torn apart, right? And at the end, the son, who had nothing to do with anything that any of them did, he came in and because he loved the dogs, he did for them what they couldn't do for themselves and cleaned up all their messes. And so that's the book. I was like $8,500, vanity project. Like this, those are hundreds of at best will read this thing, right? And one of the 100 people was my wife's Nana. It's what we call her, Dottie, and she read it, and I'm pretty sure she only read it because she liked me a little bit more at the time than my brother-in-law, and so like literally like she bought it, and I couldn't figure it out. Okay, she starts literally then buying like also these books are like she asking for more of them, asked me to sign them, and like I'm like, what is she doing? She's giving them to everybody in her retirement community, and I'm like, what is she doing? I mean, like I know she loves me and she's my fan. Like I'm like, wow, this is so crap. Like because she wanted nothing to do with faith. She wanted my wife, our whole marriage, we prayed almost weekly for her, right? We were always praying for Nana. My wife tried to have multiple conversations with her about her faith. She didn't want, nope, shut it down, right? This book, she starts giving away. But again, I just thought, well, she must really love me. Like she's trying to help me get the word out. She feels bad. I'm only selling 100. Yeah, she'd give me the 200, right? Well, we get the call, and she's in the hospital and she's diagnosed and she doesn't have long to live. And so we come to go visit her, and like it was at a time so my wife went up into the hotel room. They had this beautiful conversation. She said she's told my wife that she had made a faith decision, and my wife's like, "You're not going to believe it." She had come up here from the car, so I go up to her, and we're in this hospital room, and she's crying, and she pulls me over to the side of her hospital bed, and I'm there with her. She goes, "Steven, you know what it was?" And I'm like, "What, Nana?" She's like, "It's the book. It's the book." She's like, "I finally got it. This is the book." And we're crying together. And it was just, I mean, I can't tell you, I'm still moved just thinking about it. And, in fact, my second book, Are You a Tree? Is another children's book. I did have kids when I had that idea. And, in the back, there's a little picture that probably won't make sense, but it's got a picture of me and Nana in the hospital. This is during COVID, so we have our mask, and we're there, and the scripture on it, and you can see us, and it's like literally moments after she shared that with me, and I felt it was only appropriate because I never ever thought I'd run into the book, but I became absolutely a believer in the transformational power of a book. The book did something in her heart and mind that she was not open to a conversation with, but when she was able to read it, sit with her own thoughts, right? It was a thing. It was a thing for her, and her giving all the books away was her trying to evangelize her retirement community.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. That is absolutely beautiful. And I think it just really brings to the forefront that these intuitions, these being pulled forward rather than trying to push things forward, right? As Dan talks, it's better to be pulled forward than to push. I think it's just a really good lesson that it's not about how many, but the fact is that it has impact and that you're living from purpose. I think that's just so beautiful, Steven. Steven, if people want to find more about you, they want to follow you on your socials, if they want to find the books and the things that you're doing in your podcast or about your companies, where can they go to find you?
Probably the easiest place just is just different, the vineyard, there's superpowers, there's the book Superpowered. It's stevenjneuner.com, and it has you can find whatever you want from there, including socials.
That's fantastic. Hey, Steven, thank you so much for being on the show today and just sharing just so freely. And you're a really good storyteller. So it's not surprising that books and stories come out of you. And I love the fact that we get to be friends and that I get this front row seat to watch you on this quest. And before we sign off here, one of the things I like doing is having the guests have the last word. And so what's the last word that you want people to ponder or to ruminate around?
Well, first, let me just say, right back at you, buddy. I love you, man. This has been my joy and my pleasure. Hopefully I served my purpose for today with you. You are a transformational person. You're a brilliant reframer. As you know, I like to call you my Da Vinci. So I really appreciate you and being part of that community that's pulling me and encouraging me forward. So love you. And I guess my final words would just be, we're all making an impact, right? Like every one of us, we're making an impact. We may or may not be aware of it, but we're making an impact. So my hope, my prayer, however you find it, is that you make a good impact. Like, let's make a good one and live your purpose for today.
That's beautiful. Steven, thank you. Thanks for the kind words. And thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing so generously.
Thank you for listening. A big thanks to Elation Lab for the production and creative design. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Keep listening for more Max Life.